Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Joe Biden knows how to keep this country strong. He said so on a recent Zoom call. He's back in his basement, after coming out for just a little while to take softballs from reporters earlier in the week.
On day one, I'm going to send immigration legislation reform to the Congress to provide a roadmap to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants and so much that make up so much of our communities and make us so strong.
Right. Illegal immigration makes us strong. Well, if you're going to provide a path for everybody in this country here illegally, we're not talking about dreamers, we're talking about everybody.
Okay.
Everybody in this country illegally, then why don't you just scrap the border altogether? That's what he's talking about doing. He's not going to do it through the front door. He's going to do it through the back door, through this path to citizenship rhetoric that sounds so humane and so nice. It's not going to turn out to be any different than what the less subtle members of his team, like AOC and others, the Socialist Spice Girls, who've advocated for defunding Customs and Border Protection, defunding ICE, and eliminating our borders. That's the identitarian politics that is also on the ballot on November 3rd. And for more on that, we're pleased to be joined by Mike Gonzalez, Senior Fellow at the Douglas and Sarah Allison Center for Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation, and the author of the new book, The Plot to Change America, How Identity Politics is Dividing the Land of the Free. Mike, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hello, Dan and Amy, and hello to the people of Chicago. And I'm trying to get over the fact that you guys are in the 60s. It's been the 90s here every day for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, are we in the 60s today? Oh,
no, yeah.
No, we
right
are.
now,
All right,
yeah.
I have confirmation. I live in a basement too, like Joe Biden, so I don't know these things. The plot. Is it a plot, or is it just the sort of the full marination of a particular ideology that has captured the left?
You know, the reason I called it a plot is because it is a plot. There are no Thursday night meetings in a basement, okay? But it is the work of a very, very it's small but very united group of hard left intellectuals and activists who decided, like 4 decades ago, that dividing the nation into groups, into identity groups based on race, ethnicity, sex, sexual orientation, gender, even disability status, would be a way to achieve what they couldn't achieve through revolution, which is to change America from within, to make it accept more of a central planning model, more of a collectivist model. So they created collectives. They got the government to officialize these collectives, these categories, put them on the census, and that is the agent they tried to use to change the country. That's the case I make in my book. I didn't anticipate we were going to have the summer of 2020, which is a consequence of these the instilling of these grievances. So the book is doing really well for reasons I kind of don't like.
With respect to plotting and the adoption of a particular approach, I mean, based on the manifesto that was put forward by Biden and Sanders in conjunction with one another, Biden fully adopting essentially the Bolshevik Bernie economic vision for America. Do we have finally what folks have talked about for some time, the Cloward-Piven strategy being formally adopted by the left, which is to expand the welfare state such to the breaking point so as to usher in the Marxist revolution?
I do mention Cloward and Piven in my book. That couple has been doing damage for a very long time. And one of the things that caught my eye was in that essay they wrote in the late 60s, I believe, for the Nation. They said, look, we've never succeeded in these divisions, but now that we have all this money from the Great Society, people will have an incentive to adhere to these groups, and then maybe we can have revolution this way. And I thought that was very clairvoyant of them to write that. So yes, their strategy, not just the one that you mentioned, but this other one, in saying the American people are after their economic self-interest. Well, now their economic self-interest is in these groups, in adherence to these groups. This may succeed after all.
Now, there's one myth that in 2040, America will be a minority majority country. I've heard that several times, or by 2034, 2040. this is a myth as well?
Yeah, that is, well, it doesn't have to be a myth. It can happen unless we do something about it. And here's the thing we need to do. What that is predicated on everybody remaining cloistered into their groups. In America, American demography has been changing from the beginning, right? You've had great demographic changes, especially in the 1850s, when you had all the Irish and Germans begin to come in. They create, the society was dislocated. There were many, like the known rose up against these immigrants. And so there's always been this churning demographically. But what has happened throughout the history of America is ethnic attrition. German marries a Scandinavian, and then their son marries an Irish woman. And, you end up having 157 Americans. What we try to do now is say no. If you have a Cuban grandfather, you're going to be considered Hispanic, and you will still be instilled with these grievances. And so the census takes this almost one drop of blood approach, which is really it's really heinous. So we have to understand what is being done with these categories. We have to understand that we cannot remain divided and go back to the old model of America. I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think it's pretty clear. And so how to foil this plot? Remember, the 5th of November memorializes the foiled gunpowder plot. Guy Fawkes Day across the pond there in merry old England is foiling the plot here. Remember the 3rd of November?
Let me leave you with two. Let me leave you first with what I recommend and why I think there's hope. I recommend that the government get out of the business of creating categories in the first place. The government has no business creating the Hispanic category or the MENA category or the Asian American category or the gender categories. And the government has to get out of the business of offering benefits for adherence to these categories, right? So we have to get rid of racial preferences. Once you begin to do that, you begin the hard work of getting rid of identity politics. That's not everything, Dan and Amy. I'm not promising this is the end all of everything, but you begin to do that work. The reason why I'm hopeful is that Marxism always fails because it cannot do what it sets out to do. It sets out to change human nature. You and I know that human nature is unchangeable. So when Marxists fail, they always fail. It's a perfect record of failure. They have to fall back on coercion and violence. I don't think the American people will withstand coercion. They did not withstand it in the 1760s when Britain tried to introduce all these acts. The colonists rebelled, and I think the American people are too attached to liberty to put up with coercion, with cancel culture, with all these things.
I hope you're right about that. You're certainly right about the idea of race-based benefits, something that you're in good company with. Frederick Douglass, 200 years ago, almost 200 years ago, argued against those matters as well. He understood exactly how race-based benefits led to the subjugation of one race at the hands of the other, and that's the business that the government should not be in. So it's very interesting.
He was a hero. Frederick Douglass is a hero of mine.
Oh, there you go. Well, that I can understand then the basis of the argument. Mike Gonzalez, Senior Fellow, Douglas and Sarah Allison Center for Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation. The book, The Plot to Change America, How Identity Politics is Dividing the Land of the Free. Mike, thanks for joining us. Good luck with the book.
Thanks a lot.
And he joined us, on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hey all, this is Jim Carr, co-host of the #1 rated manufacturing podcast, Making Chips, and a customer of Signature Bank. If you're a crazy busy company owner like me, you know that success in business is all about relationships. While many banks call themselves a relationship bank, Signature knows how to do it right. They made the banking relationship easy and on my timeline. Their technology, coupled with the attention from my personal banker, made the transaction as effortless and seamless as possible. Much thanks to Signature Bank for supporting Car Machine and Tool when we needed it most. Bam.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. We talked about it with Paul Vallis